Remember what I said? Alright. Okay. What is happening tomorrow?
I don't.
Okay, from now on, hey, Bridget, you need to eat that when you first get here, alright? I don't want your food after the bell rings. Alright, now, you hurt yourself?
Yeah.
Here, Star, now you can play on it. You know, you'll probably fall off and break your.
Things will work out.
How will it work out?
Alright, here you go. Sit.
Bro, you don't understand.
Here, move your chair over here.
It hurts your
And
core.
when you fall over, I'll laugh. Alright, thank you.
No, follow what I'm doing, so now.
No, that uses it as a plus. Alright. Okay. Alright, now. You have your test, which is, I will remind you,
What test?
you weren't here. The test you're taking tomorrow.
Oh, okay, we're good.
Start.
What?
Put your head down, I will beat your head against that desk.
Okay, yeah, that's what it says. I thought that was
Harder than that, man.
Yeah, like this.
I don't-
No, that was all star.
Oh, okay. Ready to beat you to death.
Yeah, like this. I was like, what's he looking at me?
I'll like it back.
Alright, okay. Alright, okay. So, here's the deal. The test is tomorrow. It is open book. It will open tomorrow when class begins. It is not on lockdown browser, so you will be able to use your computer to look for other things. Actually, I need to take it off lockdown browser while I'm thinking about it. When it opens up, it will be open all Friday, all Saturday, all Sunday. It will close on Monday at the end of the hour. Does that make sense? Now, even though it is open book, I don't want you talking. The only thing you cannot use as a resource is your neighbor. Does that make sense? All right. Now, if you get done with it Friday, awesome for you, but I'm leaving it quiet through Monday. So some people who forget to work on it over the weekend, I'm not going to single anybody out, but let's just say somebody does forget to. Yeah.
I got a question. How many questions?
Okay, that's what I'll answer. And then it will close at the end of hour on Monday, and then Tuesday we will start into World War I. Yes.
How many questions?
Okay, you're going on.
I was.
There are a whole 35.
Why would it take more?
Some people actually like, care about their grade star. They look up the
I
question.
care about my grades. I make sure they go into an I care.
Okay. All right. Don't make her think this or your head will explode.
Do it.
Okay, it creates a mess.
Oh, you know what soccer? That'd be so cool.
Oh, yeah.
All right, okay. Wow, I'm glad to see that a lot of people decided to extend their snow day into.
He has a reason.
Oh, I know, he's completely understandable. I was just surprised it took this long to get
Yeah.
because he died like, what, a month and a half ago?
Yeah, something.
Yeah, it was, I'm glad because it'll give him and his sister some closure because I know Josiah took it really hard. So I think that's a really good thing for them.
I was just a loser.
What?
I was just a loser.
I'm just a lazy bum who's hugging on his pillow. What? No, he's not.
Yeah. How much you going to
Okay, so you really think his mom's gonna pay for another plane ticket?
You're going on a plane?
Aunt's paying for it.
Right.
Okay, sorry.
Star.
Use your brains.
Stop smoking crack.
What crap? Give it to me.
To her.
No,
give it to
Okay, don't give it to her, she's an addict.
All
All right, okay. Shh.
We should do it.
I don't know, but stop us from doing that. Okay, all right, okay. Basically, what we are gonna talk about real quick are the reformers. Basically, what you need to know is government was incredibly corrupt. Now, the important part about this, okay, have fun. Let's bring it here. You coming back with caffeine? All right, guys, switch your phones away, switch Chromebooks. All right, okay, now, back in the early 1800s, I'm sorry, late 1800s, early 1900s, government, people didn't even really think about it. Most people didn't know who the president was, they didn't really care. All the president really did was deal with foreign issues, like the businesses, like the monopolies that Rockefeller, Carnegie, all that. They didn't answer to anybody. So basically, it was completely messed up. They just kept buying off the politicians, so the politicians would leave them alone. Now, if you think this doesn't happen today, you don't think Facebook, Twitter, and all those social media companies are not paying off congressmen so they don't get the same regulations as newspapers? They are seriously doing it. Bad banana? Okay. I thought you were looking what? All right. Okay. All right. Now you have political corruption. Basically, there used to be people around who would go around and pay you to vote the way they wanted you to vote. They say, "Look, we'll get you good jobs. Just keep voting the way we want you to. We'll pay you off." I mean, it was completely and totally obvious how corrupt it was. Well,
Not as obviously now.
yeah, it's under the quid pro, this law. It's more than I can say. They can't promise you something, but magically something kind of happens after you, yeah. But they usually don't do it for votes. They do it for come work for our campaign, help us out, do what. Like, it's magic that anybody who works in somebody's campaign will magically get a job on their staff once that I'm sure it's just coincidence. All right, okay. Now, there are all kinds of scandals. You have whiskey ring. You have, we'll get later on in Warren G. Harding, which is all kinds of bad. You have monopolies that use the money to basically, this is Rockefeller, basically stuffing money into the White House. You see Congress looking like a big oil factory, refining factory. And people finally just got to the point where they're like, screw this. You're supposed to be working for us, not the other way around. So they go after the politicians. They start asking for reforms. The city governments become more powerful than the national governments, which of course is the national governments happy. And then you have all kinds of big things happening. You have a massive hurricane hit Texas. Now, think about when a hurricane hits nowadays. Government immediately steps up, right? Hard to believe, but politicians learned a lesson that has stuck for over 100 years. The fact that politicians learned a lesson is just amazing. Yeah. But basically, Galveston was wiped off the map. And they come back with federal funds and they start to rebuild it. This is a first. Now, I would say it's actually gone almost too far extreme because you get people who in Florida are moving farther and farther to the coast. I mean, you live in a state that's going to get hit by what, 2 or 3 hurricanes a year?
They have hurricane season where their plan is 5 a year.
Right. And they think, oh, we don't want to insurance. The government will pick it up. Now, the government's going to say, okay, if you don't have insurance, we're not going to help you, which is finally good. But, I mean, if you're going to live in Florida, yeah, you get the sunshine most of the year, but, there is one downside there. Okay, and you can see this is a picture of the actual devastation. I mean, it literally. Now, you also have to remember that concrete was not a thing back then. Everything was pretty much built out of wood. So, is the devastation going to be 10 times worse? Yeah. And you have the same thing with other things like in Oklahoma. Tornadoes rip through there all the time. It's just. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if that's, no, because the National Weather Service wasn't invented until like the 30s.
They name them.
They're the ones that started naming them, yeah.
But why did they start naming them?
Because it makes it easy to categorize them. Like, they go through, they pick a letter on the alphabet. I mean, they don't use X because it doesn't work. But then, yeah, but they do like a person's name.
A kid can be named Bible.
Okay, what they do, just calm down. What they do is they go all female names, and then when they go through the alphabet, then they come back. That way, you're not going to get confused by. Don't ask me. I'm not the one. I can work there.
There's a bad one and then they put that name off.
What's that?
They reuse the name.
Uh-huh.
But one site, once one of them, like, there's like, they're never gonna use that again.
Right.
See,
Well, I think they have to wait like 10 years before they use it again. Katrina, I don't think we'll ever use it again because, yeah, I don't think that one. Hey, what did we talk about?
that was my shoulder.
Oh, just turn around and hit it. All right, but Katrina was a hurricane like no other. I mean, that thing, they almost wanted to make a category 6, which they don't have. Because I don't know if you are old enough to remember, it like took up the whole Gulf of Mexico. And then when it got to the land, it just sat over New Orleans for like 3 days. It didn't move. For some reason, it just got there and stopped. Had Galveston not happened, we would not have the government stepping in and doing all that stuff. We wouldn't have FEMA and all that good stuff. Matter of fact, FEMA was invented back then. And that's, if you don't want to know, FEMA means Federal Emergency Medical Assistance. Okay. Now, to get rid of the corruption, citizens came together, they elect a mayor, they elect a commission, he picks a commission, and basically they rebuilt the city. Federal government sending money helped out, and basically instead of the mayor making all the decisions, the committee took care of some things, and this basically gave more power back to the people instead of the city manager picking the commission. Okay. And most cities actually operate like this now. Now, you also have the problem. You're supposed to be Lady Liberty. And you have the snake, which is the corruption of monopolies taking power. So they start, you also have a couple of things. You have the rise of labor unions that are rising up asking for a fair day's pay, which, okay, if you worked in a factory, you maybe on a good day, you get paid close to about 18 cents an hour, and you were working close to 70-hour work weeks, 6 days a week. If you had a good job, you could be working close to 94 if you had a crappy job. All right. So women rose up to, because the labor unions were used to be strictly for men. They struck to get a union for seamstresses. You have Robert Follett pop up with his Wisconsin idea, which basically was pretty radical. This guy would later run for president. But if you've ever heard of the tale of Wizard of Oz, this is kind of the whole thing, but we'll get there later. Basically, they created a state income tax, use that income tax back to help the people. It forms commissions, regulates businesses. So look, if you see the little picture he's showing here, here's the big business strangling the individual citizen, and afterwards they get to control everything. And she's actually holding a monopoly board game, meaning it's now a game that we can play.
Do you game at this time?
Oh yeah, Monopoly became a game when monopolies were a thing. What's the point of a monopoly? To own everything. All right, now people said, "Oh, hey, this is pretty popular," and they start enacting laws, and it starts to spread. Now, this is supposed to be the story of Noah. He's building an ark, and there's La Follette. that basically is gonna lead the people out and save them from, now, if you look, here are all the current politicians. I'm sorry, not politicians, that's Rockefeller. These are all the big three. I'm just saying, if you remember the story of Noah basically everybody's making fun of him. It's never even rained, and then they're making fun of him, and now he's going to lead them to the promised land or whatever. Okay. Now, they start to change state governments. Now, by the way, at this time, these three, Alaska was a territory. We got these territories, and then we didn't even own Hawaii yet. We'll get there. And they started all these initiatives where people, instead of politicians making laws, we in the Constitution, Missouri is a big one, like the decriminalization of marijuana that was on the ballot last fall. That had to be an amendment voted on by the people of the state of Missouri. So now you can get that. Well, you can. You guys are old enough.
How you have to be 21.
21, same as alcohol.
Amen.
Trey's looked at this.
Alcohol.
JJ, put your phone away, please. All right, okay. Now, so basically it allows citizens to bypass the the state legislature and basically get things they want. All right, yes, here we go. And by the way, this is not right. Is marijuana legal? No, it is decriminalized. That's a big sticking point that you need to understand. Can the federal government still come in and charge you, even if it's medical marijuana? Because technically, federally, is marijuana still illegal? All right, now, hey, put your phone away. All right, now, I do think in the next 10 years, do I think marijuana will be completely legal? You know what the federal government is deciding? If all the states are going to stop charging for it, they want because the states are all getting tax money from it right now, they want some of that money too. So it'll end up being like alcohol.
So much more expensive. It's not worth it.
What?
It's just gonna be so much more expensive. I don't know why they do that.
Well, if you look at compare alcohol price wise to like soda, the price difference is radical. I mean, you're talking about 3 times as much.
I know where you can get cheap.
How much is that? Well, you can make it, but you only can make so much.
In the state of Missouri, you can make 1 gallon per household member, but you cannot sell it. But
You can't transport it. You can't, because that opens up a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Those are federal laws.
you can transport it between your properties, but you can't transport it across state borders.
You can't transport it with the intent to distribute.
Yeah. Well, state borders, no matter what, that's the felony.
Get up, sorry, get up.
This isn't my weekend.
So,
It'll dry.
Get
Oh, I know what?
your head up. Sorry.
What?
Get your head up. All right. Okay. Now. Okay. What you see in this map are states that say they have the ballot initiative process. If you know, it's more of a Western idea. The Eastern states did not adopt it. And if you look, the 2 states over here that did were not original. There are 13 original states. The older states tend not to want to change the way they do things. Okay, we already talked about this enough. The one thing you can also do is if you have a politician you don't like, you can recall them. California recalled their government. He actually beat recall, but you can just vote to recall the governor, and then that puts them up for election again.
Hey, at least you tried.
Stop.
I'm talking about what you were talking about.
That's a shock.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So what happens? You have a primary, and this is what has basically changed a lot, and I'll explain why it changed a lot. But it used to be that the 2 political parties would come together and they would pick somebody to run for president. Did you have any say in it whatsoever? No. Now, What we do now is people will vote, and some states will let you vote as a Democrat and a Republican. Some parties, like the state you live in, make you pick a party, and you say, okay, I want to vote in a Republican or I want to vote Democrat, and you get to pick of all the parties' candidates, one person, and then if that person wins overall in each state, then they are running for president.
Why did they change the colors like that on the chart?
What do you mean?
Republicans are blue and Democrats.
Okay. Funny thing. Up till 1976, the Democrats always were red and the Republicans were always blue. And I don't know why it switched, but it did. If you look at the old campaign maps way back in the day, because I remember when I was in fourth grade when Jimmy Carter ran for president, he was the red color. Okay. Yeah, stop reading. Okay, now, here's the other thing. 17th Amendment made direct election of senators. If you remember, the people used to not elect senators. You'd elect representatives of the House of Representatives, and then they would pick senators. They wanted senators to be directly elected by the state legislatures. They now want them to be directly elected by the people. Now, although I don't know how, in some cases, it could get worse than some of the senators we have, but it's a whole other thing. Now, in 1901, right after the election, William McKinley gets shot. And we get the youngest president in U.S. history, Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt was a war hero in the Battle of San Juan during the Spanish-American War down in Cuba. They were getting pelted with fire, and he basically pulls out a sword and leads his men up a hill and win a great decisive victory, overtake, and he was technically not even the army, he was just a volunteer. And he becomes a huge hero. He gets elected governor of New York, and William McKinley is afraid that he's not going to win re-election, so he picks Teddy Roosevelt to run with him because he's incredibly popular, and a lot of people wishing during the campaign that he was actually the presidential candidate. Well, unfortunately for McKinley, he didn't get the wish because he dies, and Roosevelt becomes president.
I know, no,
Okay.
he got shot during the speech.
Oh yeah. Dude is tough as nails. Okay, when he was a little kid, he was asthmatic. He had every kind of sickness you can think of, which is one way to do it. And you guys do understand that's like when your head's down, it's kind of
I make it up. Oh, wait. No. No.
Things that we should just give up practice. Stop that. Sorry, no,
all right. What's up, Malik?
Can I get my blankets back?
Nope.
Can I get
Nope. All right. Okay. Now, hey, Teddy Roosevelt is the first president in a very long time who has this crazy idea that his job is to serve the people. Isn't that nuts?
Yep.
That they have needs and they need to be met. Now, it's crazy. Now, he also is really, really different because he hates corruption. He actually was quoted once saying, when given a choice between righteousness and the law, I will choose righteousness. Meaning, I don't care what the law says, I'm going to do what's right. You don't see that in politicians. No, because he wasn't worried about power, he was worried about doing it right. A lot of people called him a crusader, that he was, a goody-goody, but he kicks some butt, so we're all good.
He actually had boxing matches.
Oh, yeah.
With Secret Service members.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's what I was going back to before Star was being a butthead. All right, now, he was a very sickly kid. Star, shut up. No, you're interrupting. Stop. Okay, now. But he was sickly, so he went out when he knew he wasn't even supposed to go outside because his asthma was so bad. Without any kind of medicine, he basically beat his body into there's a couple times he almost died because he would go out and start running, and he would run through his asthmatic attack. He's lucky he actually lived through childhood because, and that's what he got into things like boxing, wrestling, and he becomes a really tough dude. So much that I guess he would buy Secret Service agent. Well, I didn't call him Secret Service back then, but yeah, it's kind of same thing. And then he got to the point where I forget which world leader it was that pissed him off. He said, "Let's just you and me settle it right here." And the other leader went running out of the room. And he was a big, thick dude. All right, now. So when Roosevelt gets in the fight with the monopolies, trade, he jumps on this side. He's on the side of the people. Now, he starts regulation. Now, if you remember what we talked about with the book The Jungle, how the other half lived and all that stuff, he read that stuff. Now, he didn't really like those journalists. They were basically saying all this bad stuff's happening under our good guy president. He didn't like it, but he did something about it. He starts to regulate the railroads, which takes out Vanderbilt. He restricts companies from restrict trade, which basically said you can't just trade without government approval. And he starts to break up the monopolies. These guys all hate him. The Rockefellers, the Carnegie, J.P. Morgan. This is Teddy Roosevelt down here. Remember David and Goliath, the little guy taking on? Yeah, that's basically what it is. And the little guy wins. Here he is, beating up the trade organizations, squeezing the trust, squeezing all the money out of them. He was a big hunter, like he used to go like a wild hunting. By the way, we know all the national parks that you can go to. He created all those. And he started killing off all of the trust. He's the one who broke up Standard Oil, which nobody thought could happen. All right. Now, when you get the scandals of the jungle and that kind of stuff, he creates the FDA to regulate meat. So when you got food, instead of all the trash going into your processor, you were getting better food. Now, he also regulates some other things. Cocaine used to be legal in this country. It was actually the main ingredient of Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola back in the early 1900s, my great aunt used to tell me about it. It was, you know how the old bottles were green? It was green in color. She said it tasted horrible. She said, but it made you feel wonderful. Talk about your original energy drink.
One of my great grandmas said I needed to work 68 hours a week or a whole week.
One Coca-Cola, right? Well, okay. That's why caffeine was introduced into Coca-Cola to replace the stimulant factor.
But what year did Coke?
I think it was like 1918 was the last time they did cocaine.
I wonder
I will tell you, if you're ever going to brewery tour down here, it's called Cool It Is. If you ever go to Atlanta, go to the Coke plant because it's just as interesting of a tour. They'll tell you about the whole cocaine background too. Yeah, they're very honest. They don't give you.
No, I it's a tour.
Yes, you just have to make a reservation. You do that here.
Okay.
All right, now. This is also when heroin becomes illegal. Because heroin used to be legal.
Everything was till they realized.
Okay, well, you have to understand. Heroin, people were all, this is also when, remember, did alcohol get made illegal? So, heroin, which was just a little bit more. Now, you guys understand, some of these things were still legal back when I was a little kid. They had this stuff called Paregoric. When babies were teething, you'd rub it on their gums. Well, yeah, it's a form of heroin. Of course the baby's not gonna cry anymore, because the baby's stoned.
I thought that was bourbon.
Huh?
I thought that was bourbon.
Well, some people did that when Paregoric became legal. I know my mom told me that I had Paregoric rubbed on my gums. She said teething was never a problem.
Are you a
Do
heroin?
you still get here?
Apparently I was.
Heck yeah.
Okay. By the way, little side note. I know heroin has made a comeback. I thought it had died out in the 90s, but if anything, it's, hey, and I'm being dead serious when I say so, don't jump around. I've had students who have died of heroin overdoses. It steals your soul. Don't play around with it. Don't play around with it at all. Okay. Onward and over. All right, now. But basically, all these fake drugs that a lot of people have put out there, like, we now have to call them health food supplements because these magic things are supposed to heal you that don't ever do it. The FDA came down on them and said you can't use these anymore. We start making sure that we're cutting down trees, that they replant them so we're not destroying all our natural resources. The environmental conservation, these are the national parks popping up. If you look, we have our fair share in Missouri. He loved Yellowstone. Yellowstone was the first national park. And he loved the Grand Canyon. Now, he was so popular, he could have easily run for a third term. Now, people didn't think it would have been bad if he ran for a third term because he was never elected to his first term. Remember, McKinley got shot, he became president. Most people were all in favor of him running for a third term. He does not. He says, Washington only had 2 terms, I'll only have 2 terms. Now, he did more in 7 years than most presidents do in 8. Actually, he did more in 3 years than most of them do in 8. Basically, he also had the big stick theory. The slide will come up in a minute. But basically, Europe, stay away from American problems in America. The United States will figure out, you guys deal with your own problems. Now, his vice president is his handpicked successor. The biggest and largest president we've ever had. And by the way, if you've heard the myth that he got stuck in the bathtub, that is a wives' tale.
I heard they had to make a custom one before.
They did make a custom one for him, but they didn't have to crystal him to get him out of it.
Oh, I thought
He was
that
like
one
a
was
little
true.
baby.
He was 325 pounds and about my height. Yeah.
Some wrestlers are.
Now the funny thing is he never wanted to be president. He finally ends up getting the job he wants after he's voted out of office. He becomes Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Yeah.
So I actually have a story about. So my mom had a roommate, and all these steps in my room, and that's where they lived. And they had one airplane for shooting airplanes, so keep them out.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now, Taft starts pushing for the same kind of reforms as Roosevelt does, but people start moving their way in. Lobbyists come back in. He's not as clean cut as Roosevelt was, and corruption starts to build again. And he does break up more monopolies, but this is the big one. The Department of Labor basically starts creating child labor laws. This is when kids start getting forced to go to school instead. Now, but he is for high tariffs, which protects U.S. jobs, which can be a good thing, but he got excessive with it. And this is where he makes Roosevelt mad. Basically, land that Roosevelt wanted to become national parks, he lets businesses come in and take control. And then you got Teddy sitting out the window being all pissed off at him, and he decides to run for a third term now that Taft destroyed everything up. Now, this is why we have sirens. The people wanted him to be president again. The Republicans did not because they could control Taft. So what they do is they pick Taft. Roosevelt, the funny thing is they thought Roosevelt would just go away. Roosevelt's like, okay, I'll create my own political party. And he runs as this is what you're talking about when he gets shot. This is the toughest thing I've ever heard. He's on his way to give a speech. He gets shot in the chest and the shoulder. Actually, because his speech was so long and folded up in his pocket, it was like a 22. It might help stop the blood. But when he comes in, he takes off his jacket and he's got blood running down. Takes up the bloody speech, puts it down, and says, "Sorry, I'm late, ladies and gentlemen, but I was shot on the way in here." And it goes into a 1-hour speech that almost kills him because he's bleeding so much. But then he goes to the hospital and he survives. Now, unfortunately, in my mind, he does not win the presidency. What he does is split the Republican voters. And then the first Democracy, you got the bull moose over here versus the Republicans, the elephant, and the donkey, the Democrats. And this allows, in a three-man race, this allows Woodrow Wilson to become president, who did some okay things vice president, but is probably the most racist individual to ever hold the White House. And that's saying something. And that's why, if you added up the votes that these two got, this they were far exceeding what he got, but he was basically able in a three-man race to win the electoral college.
One of the few three-man races we've ever had.
This is why people are afraid of the third party. This is why as fractured as the Democratic and Republican parties are right now, they stick together because you have people who can't agree with each other within the old parties, but they're afraid of this because the third party, that's what the Republicans are fearful of in the next election, that if Donald Trump does not win the primary, that he'll run as a third party candidate, which will basically be whoever wins the Democratic wins president. Yeah.
What's the point of having so many parties if they're never gonna?
Well, here's the thing. If you look at the popular vote, Wilson got less than 42% of it. He didn't get half of it. But in the Electoral College, the people say the Electoral College is what keeps us from having a third party and having more choices, which to me would make more sense. But I don't know. I go back. Okay, now he does a couple of things. Now, the whole idea of the income tax was started under Lincoln, so this is a long time coming, but they finally passed the amendment. Not that he did anything, but it becomes a thing. Now, this makes him incredibly unpopular. The direct election of senators that have been started before, the one that he was actually in favor of, pushing through the 18th Amendment, getting rid of alcohol. Now, the other one that comes through, and I don't credit him at all. I credit his wife with doing this one. Edith Wilson was by far a dominant person in her husband's life, and the 19th Amendment comes along because of her. Now, because in his second term when this gets signed, there was a unique thing that happened in U.S. history. Ladies, we have had a female president. Not in name, but in action. He had a massive stroke. He barely talked. Back then, there was no 25th Amendment that allowed, because you can see we have the 19th 25th Amendment that says that the president is incapacitated, the vice president will take over. Basically, the only way to replace the president was if he died. So let's say the president has a stroke. Eventually, we have no president. So, by law, the president was incapacitated, could sign his name and do all these different things. Guess who started signing bills? Who do you think actually signed this? He did. Signed it with his name. Magically, bills would go to the president who couldn't talk, and magically would come back outside. If you've ever known anything about somebody that's had a stroke, can they write? No. So,
Well, unless the side that got screwed up was the dominant side.
valid point. Okay. One thing he did go after, he went after antitrust, and he protected the workers' right to strike. This is a big, big step in labor. Now, unfortunately, some of the things he also did was he screened Birth of a Nation, which was basically the biography of the KKK at the White House. So, for whatever good he's done, not one of my favorite presidents. Okay, we don't need to, that's on your test. Okay. Okay, we're done. Okay, now, if you go to your modules, which I'm getting ready to, I'm making the study guide real easy. You'll see study guide. Let me just change this real quick because I thought it was just for. Now, should let you see your answers. All right. Okay. If you want to go through this and start looking up the answers to the test, basically this is what I'm allowing you to do. They'll let you do it once, and they'll show you which one is incorrect. It won't show you the right answer, but it will show you which one is. Okay? So.
From here.
What?
From here.
What do you mean wrong here?
That's the ears. What?
I forgot how to pop next
That's
history.
for ears.
Right?
Ears.
Yeah, that here's
So
for
that would be
hearing.
good.
Oh, okay.
I didn't do it.
Well, I felt that
Oh.
in my ear.
Oh, stupid work. I did voice to text.
You did it.
Yeah, I forgot to do it yesterday. I did the other way too.
Okay.
No.
Most of what I type is voice to text. So when it gets screwed up, that's why my typing skills are horrible.
Me too.
It's just this sharp thing. Or like it's just.
So what I do is I speak into Google Docs and then just slap it over there. I like to blame everything on you.
You don't know what her this solo. What do I do?
You're breathing.
You spray her with it.
Coming to practice it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to babysit his father.
What?
You have to babysit his brother.
You did yesterday, I know. And I told those.
Okay. Why were everyone's glasses weird that time? One thing.
Oh, because, okay, the wire was the only way they made glasses.
Yeah. Both. Yeah, there's only like an extra.
Hey, hit my hand.
It's like they had.
Yeah, you can-
A third.
Let me go.
What I do? I didn't-
Let me look it up.
Coach Hill doesn't know everything. Yeah.
Everything I see.
Hey, you look like Andy from South Park the whole time.
I am.
Hey, he looks like Kenny from South Park.
Here's what I'm wondering. So many people our age grow up.
What's the sad side?
Why do they get offended over everything? If you watch
I was like,
South Park,
right.
Valid point.
I was like, you're going fantasy?
Oh, crap, I need to take this.
Yeah.
I forgot how to pop. Oh, okay.
See?
Isn't that weird?
I just figured out how to pop. You're like this. I did. So where'd that go? Start acting out. Yes. Those is only ground. Look at Mr. Hills.
He's the most of it.
We know.
That's even worse.
It's gonna be weird when it starts like 30 and it starts like growing out and the point sticks
Why did
out.
it start growing when she's 30?
It's
Okay, your nose and your ears and your things that keep growing your entire life.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like
Right, but why when she's 30?
Because they might get that by that point. It's a destination.
The dust.
Oh, yeah, JJ? JJ,
Yeah.
JJ, go stand by Malik. All you need is black shoes, man.
They had a weird break.
I'm okay.
That is weird.
Wilson's and Roosevelt's classes did.
Yeah.
I think that's the only kind of glasses they make.
No.
Don't ever pop them in that unless you know what you're doing, but you don't.
You just do it. Unless you're
Yeah,
trying
but,
to kill
I mean, your brain activity's not up there.
I looked up my YouTube.
It's in the car.
That's not a joke.
It's in her stomach, because that's what she also thinks about. Is food. Every time I see stars, she's eating.
I can eat right now.
You would, yeah. What is you with me? What, how do you know how I get started to do stuff? I blackmail her with food. Never did touch the rib.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hendrick got close.
Should I stop being creative? I'll get food.
Yeah.
I'm not just giving you food because you're a big kid.
Okay. Thank you. I'm a good kid.
Someone owes me ice cream.
How do I know?
You untie my shoes every time you see me.
You tie everyone's shoes and then tie them together.
Star ties my shoes. Star ties
How
my
did
shoes.
you?
No, Star ties my shoes.
Well, yeah, because she's not doing what you seem to want done,
Exactly.
because you're too lazy to tie them yourself.
She made me tie her shoes at the city museum.
Oh, not pop.
Link, we got like a hot minute. That's it?
We got 20.
It's 26.
C-Day,
It's a C day. It's a C day.
They said everything normal.
No, it's normal, meaning it's a C day. Go ahead and take a seat.
Normally,
It's on an eight.
Yeah, normal.
On an 8 this time, I should see it.
oh, normal.
We're at
8:46.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got.
How come on campus it's
Because that's what normal schedule.
oh, that's how you.
Yeah, instead of, the teachers were trying to get her to go for an A day, because it would have made more sense.
So we go straight to third hour after this.
No, second hour.
Second hour?
What is
Then we
this?
get out at 8.
You're right. Okay, I'm messed up because I keep thinking it's an uneven day. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like a regular Thursday.
Yes.
I get one.
Just like Monday.
Give up.
I think he is.